In our last video, we learned how to install the Google Chat app on our mobile devices. So in this video, we'll look at how to navigate around the Chat app on a mobile device. It'll also kind of give you a quick guide for really quickly learning how to use the Chat app. I'm using an Android phone, but it should be roughly similar on an iPhone. So as a reminder as to why we're using the Chat app, we're replacing those text messages that we've been sending to instant message each other. So the Chat app is much more secure than the native text messaging apps on our phones. So we'll be using this for those time-sensitive, school-related messages that you need to get instantly, just like with a text. So we can also use chat in a browser on our computer as well. And we've covered that in a separate video. So at the end of the day, you can have access to chat and those instant messages regardless of which device you're using, whether you're on your laptop or on a mobile device such as an iPad or a different tablet or your smartphone. So in the Chat app, you'll notice the layout is very similar to Gmail. It's also very similar to the text app that you've probably been using. The home screen simply lists all of the conversations you follow in chronological order, with the most recent messages being at the top. Unread messages appear in bold, so you can see I have an unread message from ASA Administrator. At the very top of the Chat app, you'll notice a search field where it says Search in Chat. And if I tap on that, this is how I'm going to quickly find any messages I might be looking for, so I don't have to scroll through every conversation I've had, because these will accumulate, as you know, from the text app on your phone. So the first thing it does is it suggests searching by user. So you can see, or by sender, I should say. So you can see there are the groups that we use in Gmail. So you can search by those if you know it was a group conversation. There are other groups here that we may have created on our own, or it simply lists, like this one, Angela, Joseph, Jenny, Michael, or Becky, Megan. It will list all of the people in the conversation, or it might just even be a single person that you've been having a message with. So you can search by sender, or you can also search by a keyword. So let's say I'm looking for all the conversations that where we discussed Google Classroom. So I'm going to tap in that search field and type in the word classroom, and then tap the magnifying glass at the lower right corner of my keyboard. So now it has brought up every conversation I've had that includes the word classroom. You can also see in these fields that are underneath the search bar, there are other ways that you can refine your search even further. So that's the quickest way to find a message rather than just scrolling through your entire list. So let's tap the X here to clear that search term, and the back arrow is going to take me back to my home screen. To the left of the search field, you'll notice the hamburger or pancake stack menu. And oddly enough, yes, that really is the technical term for it. So let's give that menu a tap, and you'll see you have some other options. So I'm going to start from the bottom of the list and move up. So at the very bottom, you have help and feedback. Feedback is where you can send Google your ideas for how the app could work better. So if you have an idea for a feature that you would like to see in the Chat app, or some way that it could be tweaked, feel free to give that feedback. Google really does look at feedback from users and rolls out new features. And the other way is to find help. So for example, if you're trying to do something in chat and you can't quite remember how to do it, that's where you're going to find the help screen. So you can tap on that and search for what it is you're trying to do, and it will give you instructions. So the next item up from the bottom is settings. So I will tap on settings, and you'll see this is where you can adjust all of the settings for the chat app as a whole on your mobile device. So these settings won't really affect the chat on your desktop or on your laptop in a browser. They are just going to affect the app on your phone. So you can see that you can turn off your notifications. So if you either didn't turn those on when you installed the app, or you did and you want them off, this is where you would turn those notifications off. You can also mark yourself as do not disturb, so you temporarily won't get those notifications letting you know you have a new message. Then you would have to go back to settings and turn do not disturb back off again. So go ahead and take a look through those settings and adjust those to make it work exactly the way you want it to. I'm going to tap the back arrow to go back to the home screen. Then I'm going to tap the hamburger or pancake stack again to go back to that menu. The other item I want to call your attention to is see where at the top it says active. This is also available in Gmail, but we don't really use it that often for Gmail. I feel like it might be a little more important to know how to use this feature with the chat app that is more immediate, because there are times when you might not be able to be disturbed. Say you're in a meeting with parents or whomever, and you just can't be disturbed for, a period of time. You need to know how to mark yourself active or inactive. So I will tap that arrow next to the word active, and you can see it does default to marking us active. But we can also choose to mark ourselves do not disturb, and then when we're available again, we tap it, turn that off, and we'll be active again. But there's another way to do this as well. So see just below that where it says add status. So I will tap on add a status, and you can see there's even more presets here with time constraints next to them. So for example, if you're going to go out and run an errand, or you're just at lunch for 30 minutes, you can tap the be right back, set yourself as unavailable for 30 minutes, and then at the end of that 30 minutes, it will automatically mark you back as active. So you don't have to remember to turn that on and off. So you can use any one of those, or as you can see, you can write your own. You can create your own status as well with its own custom time limit. So I just really wanted to call your attention to that so you know how to temporarily suspend those notifications if you need to. So I'm going to tap the X and head back to the home screen. Next, let's look at the list of messages in the home view. As I mentioned, conversations are listed in chronological order, with the most recent at the top, and unread messages appear in bold. Long pressing any of the messages or pressing and holding opens a little submenu that pops up and gives you actions that you can take with each one of those messages. So you can mute the conversation, you can set your notifications conversation by conversation, you can leave the conversation, or you can block it. I will tap anywhere other than in that menu, and that menu will go away. Single pressing any of those messages will open the message, and you can see the entire conversation, just like you can with your text messages. So with each one of these messages in this conversation, again, long pressing that will give you more options. So you'll see those emojis at the top. That is how, like in a text message, you can sort of long press on a message and add an emoji to react to it or like it. That's exactly what these emojis are. The emoji plus sign there on the far right will open the entire emoji keyboard, so you can select a different emoji than one of the ones that were suggested there. You can also see here, you can mark the message as unread. You can star the message. This will make it easier for you to find it again if you need it at a later time. And you can see you have yet some other options as well. So these are all actions you can take from inside the conversation. So I will simply tap elsewhere to close that menu. Down at the very bottom, you can see where it says great, welcome, thanks. Those are smart replies. So that is AI making a suggestion for how you can reply to that message very quickly. So you can either tap one of those to reply, or you can tap in that blank field at the bottom and type your reply. You can also add emojis and attachments, or add a GIF to that if you'd like as well. So I'm going to tap now the back arrow to go back to our list of messages on the home screen. So now we've looked at ways that we can take an action on one of those conversations without opening it and by opening it. I also want to call your attention to different ways that you can filter this list of conversations. So you'll see up across from where it says home at the top, where you see where it says thread. So if you tap thread, it's going to limit this list to just conversation threads that you've had in Spaces. I will explain what Spaces are in more detail later. You will most likely be using Spaces for group conversations. So again, threads are only available in Spaces, not in just your general run-of-the-mill direct message that you'll use most of the time. So I'm going to turn that thread filter back off. And to the right of the thread filter, you'll see a new or unread message icon. And if I tap that, it's going to list all of my unread messages. So if you've got unread messages scattered throughout that list, this is a way to consolidate them all together and deal with just your unread messages. So again, tapping that again will turn it off. They're just toggle switches. Tapping it turns it on, tapping it again turns it off. I want to call your attention down to the bottom. So you've got a series of icons down at the bottom. I want to show you the 3 dots there. So if I tap those 3 dots, it gives me 2 more options for filtering my messages in this list. The first one is mentions. So if I tap mentions, it's going to show me any of the messages that I am actually mentioned, or you might know it as tagged. So if somebody mentions you, they've added the @ symbol and your name, similar to the way we tag people in social media or in a text message or even in Gmail or a doc for that matter. So that's how you can filter that list. If I tap those 3 dots again, I can also find all of my starred messages. So remember how I showed you in an open conversation where you could star a part of that conversation. This is where you would then quickly find those starred messages. Okay? Back to the bottom of the app, that bar with all the little icons on it. These are different ways of viewing your messages or your conversations. So the home icon is the view we're currently in. So let's move to the next icon to the right of home, and that is your direct messages section. You'll notice a little number bubble, which indicates the number of unread chat messages you have. And you can see it's still that same ASA administrator. It's in bold, and that's our unread message. So in this view, messages are listed by sender or by the people who are included in the conversation. So we have the exact same options. If we long press a message, we have pretty much the same options for taking action without having to open the message. So if I tap elsewhere, that little pop-up goes away. If I tap once on the message, I'm right back to that same screen I was at before with all of the same options by long pressing or replying or using some of the smart reply suggestions. The back arrow is going to take me back to the screen we were at before, which in this case is direct messages. So this is just another way of looking at your messages. You can see an icon along the top. That is, again, our new unread message button. So that's where you can narrow down that view. and I can turn that back on. And I still, again, can also filter this list by mentions and by starred messages as I did in the home view. So really, it's just a matter of what your preference is and how you choose to search for or view your messages. So back in the bottom bar and moving to the right to the next icon, this is the section view. So there are actually two sections in the section view, spaces at the top and apps at the bottom. We currently do not have any apps associated with chat, but should the time come when we do, that's where you will find your apps that you can use within Google Chat. This is also where you're going to find the Google groups that we use in Gmail. So you can see ASA teachers, ASA upper campus teachers, ASA lower campus teachers, etc., etc. Those same groups are going to work in chat. You just simply tap on one and then type your message in, and then you can go ahead and send it just like you would any other message, and that message will immediately go to everyone in that group. So I'm going to back up and we'll head back here. The other types of sections, spaces that you'll see are, for example, if you are working on a committee on a specific project, you're working with a group of people, say you're on the Lent committee, and you want to start planning Lent. Well, you can create a space, including everyone on the committee, and everyone here can not only have an ongoing conversation about your Lenten plans, but you can also, if I tap the very next heading over, which is shared, you can also share files and links. So, for example, this is where you might want to put the link for the Lenten calendar that you're going to send home to families. So you could share that link in the shared section of your Google Space. You can also share files. So for example, if you're creating the flyer that it's going to go home to parents, or if you are creating the summary document that you send to staff that lists all of the plans for early childhood and K-2 and 3-8, you could share that ongoing document here. It makes it very easy for everyone to find, and you can collaborate that way as well. In addition to having an ongoing conversation in the chat and sharing links and files, if I tap this last heading, tasks, you'll see you can assign tasks to one person. Unfortunately, you cannot assign tasks to more than one person, but you can also give it a due date. So this is a good way to keep everyone on track. They will also get a notification that a task has been assigned to them. And when they've completed that task, they just simply check that box and everyone can see that that task has been completed. So that's kind of a good way to manage a project. You can just simply use spaces in Google Chat and everything you need is all in one place. So those are the two ways you use spaces. You use it to send group messages to the already created ASA groups that we use with Gmail, and you can manage projects with groups of people by setting up a space for your particular committee or project. So the last thing I want to draw your attention to is the very last icon along the bottom, and that's the white one with the plus sign on it. So if I tap that, that is where I'm going to create a new chat. So I would create a new chat by simply starting to type the person's name that I want to chat with, or you can type in more than one person's name. Or if you want to use one of the Google groups that we already use for email and now for chat, you could type the name of that group in. So now you have two ways to send a group message. You can either open up Spaces and tap the name of that group, or you can just simply hit the new chat button at the bottom and enter the name of the group. So that's where this particular button is where you send new messages. You can see you can also create your own space. So for example, if you are chairing the Lenten committee, you might want to create a space for everyone and include everyone who's on the Lenten committee. You can also browse your spaces. As you start to collect spaces, it might be harder to find the one you're looking for, so you can browse them there. And the last option is managing requests. When someone outside of the Diocese of Grand Rapids sends you a chat message, you'll first receive a request. So you have the ability to accept or decline outside chat requests. So this is where you'll manage those requests. So that pretty much does it for your Not So Whirlwind tour of the chat app on a mobile device. In future chat videos, I'll show you how to receive, send, and reply to messages, and we'll also cover spaces in depth. So keep an eye on this playlist for those videos to become available.